Hello everyone, it is time for another video, and today I would like to talk to you about the short story The Nose by Nikolai Gogol, which was published in 1836. It's almost 200 years old and it is still very entertaining and funny, and it's a wonderful story to read. The plot is very easily summarized. It is about a man who is losing his nose, which begins a life of its own, and he tries to get the nose back into his face and back into his life. And I think the whole synopsis of the story is already really funny, and I would like to summarize the story a little bit for you because it's just too funny not to tell. It's one of the funniest stories I've read in a while, and this is why I wanted to tell you about it. So we have two protagonists in the story. One is the barber Yakovlevich, and the other one is one of his clients, the collegiate assessor Kovalyov. And a collegiate assessor is just a civil servant in a rather low-ranking position, but still a very respected position. And the collegiate assessor is also very proud of this position he's got himself into. And the story starts off in the perspective of Yakovlevich. He's waking up one morning and he gets down to the breakfast table, and his wife asks him, "What do you want to have for breakfast?" And he says, "I would like to have some bread." And when he slides open the bread, he finds a human nose. And he's completely overwhelmed and terrified and cannot believe his own eyes. And the worst thing about it is that the nose belongs to none other than the collegiate assessor Kovalyov, who is one of his clients. And he's really afraid of the event. So his wife, she's completely freaking out. She says, "Please get at that nose out of the house. Who is it this time that you've cut open with your knives and your scissors and whatever you're working with?" And she's just really freaking out. And his honest intention is also the same, that he wants to get the nose out of the house and get rid of it as quickly as possible, especially because he's afraid that a police officer would ring at his house and ask him why he's in possession of a foreign nose, a foreign human nose. So this is why he gets up quickly and pretends to go for a walk with the nose put in a small piece of cloth, and just trying to get rid of it somewhere, just dropping it at the side of the street or somewhere in the river, whatever. And whenever he thinks, "Oh, it's a good time, it's a good moment because there's no one around who will see me," there's a police officer somewhere just doing his patrolling and just checking the surroundings, and then he cannot drop the nose because it would be suspicious. And then one moment he thinks he's alone and he drops the nose in the river in St. Petersburg. And when he turns around, there's a police officer asking him, "What did you just do there?" And then the narrator tells us that the whole events that are happening afterwards, they are clouded completely in mist, so we don't know what's going on. And we do not really know whether the narrator doesn't know what's happening or he decides not to tell the reader, but well, we can just work with what we have, right? So in the second scene, or the second part, we hear about the events of the events happening in the house of the collegiate assessor Kovalyov, who wakes up and just checks his face in the mirror because he has seen that a pimple appeared on his face the night before, and he wants to check on that. And then he realizes that his nose is missing, and there's just a flat part in his face, flat as a pancake, I think it said in the translation. So he's really surprised. I think surprise would be a good description of his reaction. And he really thinks that he's dreaming and he's pinching himself, and he's like, "Well, that can't be right." And then he just gets dressed and just puts some cloth above his nose so that nobody will see that he doesn't have a nose, and he checks himself in every window and every mirror in St. Petersburg that he comes across, and the nose is still missing. And then he turns around a corner and he realizes that his nose is dressed in a coat of a high-ranking state official, higher ranking than himself, and stepping inside a carriage. And he's like, well, that's weird. It's my nose walking around town. What's going on here? And he asks his own carriage driver to follow the nose, so like you know it from movies. It's really funny. And then the nose goes to the church, and she just like wants to pray and be in silence. And the collegiate assessor still approaches her, or him, or whatever, the nose, politely, I think it's it, and asks the nose to get back to its proper place, because that's where it belongs. And the collegiate assessor also explains that it's a little weird to walk around the town without a nose. One of the biggest problems for him, as you would like to know maybe, is that he thinks he cannot flirt with women anymore because he doesn't have a nose. And it's weird to flirt with women if you don't have a nose. I mean, whatever. I think everyone can decide that for themselves, but he decides it for him this way. So it's really a big problem for him, because normally he's acquainted with so many women in town and the society, and it's just normal for him to converse with everyone he meets and just have a good time and also impress women, I think. And this is not possible for him anymore, which is why many interpreters also said that the nose is like a phallus symbol. And you can imagine what else is going on there. So I think that's not really important for the story, but okay, you can put your attention to that if you're interested. The nose refuses to get back to the face and says it would like to pray in silence and just be at peace with itself. So then the collegiate assessor Kovalyov gets distracted by another beautiful woman walking by who he wants to flirt with but can't because he doesn't have a nose. And then he loses sight of the nose, and he's left alone without the nose and without the woman. So he thinks, what should I do? And then he decides that he's going to the newspaper to place an advertisement about his nose gone missing. And the newspaper clerk, he says, "Oh, I'm so sorry, but you cannot place that advertisement. You know, people these days, they are losing everything. They are losing their glasses, their dogs, and now you're coming along with your nose. And I mean, what should people think when they read the newspaper?" And I mean, everyone is still already saying, well, there's so much nonsense going on in the newspaper, and I do not really believe it anymore. So if someone's placing an advertisement about his nose gone missing, that's just rubbish. That doesn't make any sense. So he cannot place the advertisement, and he's really getting more and more desperate. So he calls at one of the police officers he's acquainted with, and he asks him for help, but the police officer is just about to take a nap in the afternoon, and he says, "Please come back later," or whatever. I have no time to deal with your business right now. So he's left alone without a nose, and he goes home, and he's really a little desperate and doesn't know what to do. And a little time later, another police officer rings at his door and says, "I've got something for you. This is your nose." And collegiate assessor Kovalyov is over the moon. He's so happy that he's got his nose back, and he cannot believe how lucky he is. And he thinks, well, that's great, I can just reattach it to my face and everyone's happy and everything's fine. But then he realizes, shit, I cannot reattach it to my face. It just doesn't stick. It doesn't stick in my face. He tries it with glue and with, I don't know, many wax, I think, and many different things, but it doesn't work. So he thinks, what can I do? And then he remembers that in the top floor of his house, there's a doctor living. And he goes to the doctor and tells the doctor about the situation. And the doctor is like, no worries, of course I can reattach the nose to your face. I can just sew it back on. But have you ever thought about just putting the nose in alcohol and selling it for a good price? Because that would be so much more convenient. And I would also buy it because, why not? And the collegiate assessor is a little overwhelmed by that answer, and he doesn't want to sell the nose. So he just takes it back to his apartment and doesn't know what to do. And then just one more last scene where the collegiate assessor wakes up to find his nose back in his face and everything's fine and he's happy. And the barber Yakovlevich comes by to shave his beard, and he's extremely cautious of not touching the nose because you never know what's happening, right? And that's how the story ends, and I think it's really, really funny. And I love the way Gogol tells the story. It's really easygoing and beautifully written, and it's just very easygoing read. It's just, you can just take the story and read it, and it's just a lot of fun. I love it. And what I really love about it especially is that Gogol takes this idea, a man losing his nose, and just puts it into practice and says, what if this really happened? How would people deal with it? And one thing I forgot to tell you about is how the people reacted, because for example, the newspaper clerk, he doesn't even bother that the man says, I lost my nose. It's like really weird. It's like, you don't just lose your nose, like people lose their shoes or their dogs or whatever. People lose things all the time, like their keys or whatever, but you cannot just lose your nose. That's like the middle of your face. It's so important. And I think that's really funny. Like also that he chose the nose as a like a symbol in a way also, because I think it's in the middle of your face and it's a very important organ of your body, but at the same time it's one of the very few parts of the body that you cannot really see yourself unless you're looking in the mirror. And looking in the mirror is, for example, also especially important for the collegiate assessor Kovalyov, who is I think he's very caught up with himself, and he's like, good looks are very important to him, and also his rank and his reputation. And the reputation is so, like, it's bound to his looks also. And I think you can see so many topics that are covered here, and I think it's really interesting the way that Gogol discussed them. And I think I would recommend giving it a chance and reading the story, because there's a lot more in it than I could tell you about it. I gave quite a detailed summary, but not too detailed, I think, so that it is still funny to read the story and to be entertained yourself and to make up your own interpretations of it. And I hope you enjoyed my summary, and I hope you enjoy the story as well. I will also talk about The Code soon, which is another short story I also like a lot. It's also by Gogol. I think Gogol is just a wonderful short story writer. I don't know about what you think. I think I'm just very much into Russian writers at the moment. So if you have any recommendations or any questions, just leave them in the comments and let me know how you like the video, or whatever you think, whatever you would like to see else. And I hope you had a good time and have a good day. Bye bye.